Okay, good evening, everyone, and welcome to class. This is 17 o'clock. So we are going to just give 5 more minutes for us to join in and then we kick start. Thank you very much. Please, chairpersons, encourage your team members to join in and see you all by 17:05. Okay, good evening, everyone, once again, and welcome to class. So today's class is going to be about political parties and structures. And to take us further on that is our facilitator, Mr. Livinus Ibang. And so I'm just going to read the bio of our facilitator for today's class before we kickstart. Ibang Livinus is currently a public health and health safety expert and a professional in politics with over 19 years working in institutional reforms that can lead to social change. He had led several students its advocacy. He was a former FC Nigeria Party, ANN, and it was under his leadership that the party built the structures at the local government and ward levels before his ascension as vice chairman of the party for the South-South zone after the National Convention in 2018. In this capacity, he served which is the Security Committee, which he chaired, the Partnership Committee in 2019. He was also a member of the National Campaign Council as the South-South Zonal Director and Chairman of the National Campaign. Ibiang is a graduate of the University of Calabar and holds several, in addition, a Master's in Business Administration from the Ahmadu Bello University and currently a PhD candidate in International Public Health. He's married and blessed with 3 lovely children. So to take us further on this course, we have Mr. Livinus Ibang. Welcome, sir.
Welcome, sir, and it's a pleasure. You know, even the ED has an Oga. So it's a pleasure to welcome my Oga, Ibiang Livinus Kalia. Don't allow them arrest you in Cross River for pronouncing the name.
Sorry for that, sir.
So my Oga, it is a pleasure for the opportune time to have you, and thank you so much for everything you've done for the college, support you've given it. And it's a pleasure to have you here, sir. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much, Ede. Please confirm you can all hear me very well.
We can hear you.
Excellent. So thank you. Thanks so much, Ede. And the moderator, Chalia. I am very delighted to be with all of us today at this very unique and special group. The Electoral College have pioneered what in Nigeria and in Africa, generally, many of us haven't seen. And I must say that this vision is bigger than any one of us. And even the one who gave birth to the vision can attest to the fact that this is indeed bigger than even himself. And so it is a privilege for me to be part of this group and to share my little knowledge of the experience that I've had in politics with this very special cohort. And I notice we have quite a number of political party representation at in this very cohort. So it's going to really be an exciting time with each and every one of us. So once again, I want to thank you, Edie, and also the staff of the Electoral College Nigeria for yet another opportunity to be here with you. Having said that, my task is very simple. I've been asked to talk to us about political parties and structure. So over the years, I've been very much interested in political parties, from formation to functionality of these political parties, because political parties are the vehicle via which every government of a nation is birthed. So for me, it is one of the most crucial organ or entity in any political environment. And that's the more reason why I attach so much interest in political parties. Now, having said this, oops. Okay, so just a bit of background. like I said, political parties are fundamental to every democratic process. And of course, you cannot talk about democracy without political parties. It's just impossible. Democracy, of course, as we all know, is a form of government, and we have several other forms of government. And it is a system via which power is delegated to, a group of people from a political party through what we call an electoral process. And these political platforms actually provide the opportunity for the competition and the competitiveness of an electoral process. Competitiveness because you're going to have to assess candidates presented by the parties, okay, and on the basis of their suitability for the position that they vie for. And it's important to note that Herbert Macaulay, who is, of course, a grandson of Bishop Ajayi Crowther, formed the first of such political party, if you go back in history, and which was the Nigerian National Democratic Party in 2022. Now,
good afternoon, sir.
Yes, please. Go ahead, I can hear you. Hello, Charlie, are you there?
Yes, sir. Her network is breaking.
Oh,
okay. Can you hear me?
Okay. Hello, Didi, you're breaking.
Oh, okay. Am I clear now?
Yes, you are.
Okay. No, I was good afternoon. So I was saying that the political parties you're seeing is just a form of simulation.
Yes.
Yes, it's not their real political parties. We just we separated them into make-believe political parties for purpose of assignments.
Okay, so what I'm giving is some historical facts, some things that have happened before now. So the political parties I have mentioned thus far do not currently exist, but they existed in the past. Yeah, so I'm basically giving just yeah. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Okay, so it's just a history, just some background. Just walk with me and we'll get to where we need to be. So these are some developments. The development of political parties in Nigeria, of course, like I said, dates back way back in the 1920s. And of course, with the formation of the Nigerian National Democratic Party. And we then had the establishment of the Nigerian Legislative Council, which of course provided some political space for participation of indigenes. Don't forget that the early 19th centuries, of course, we had the colonial masters who were basically presiding and administering the enclave we now call Nigeria. So until when the Legislative Council was established, of course, and then it provided a space for indigenes to now participate in politics. And of course, within this period, franchise was basically limited to two cities, largely Lagos and Calabar. And of course, if you look through history, you'll discover that these two areas, Lagos and Calabar, were the capital of Nigeria at some point. So a more vigorous process of political party formation was initiated in the formation of the Nigerian Youth Movement in 1938. And of course, this was largely due to the widening of the political space to accommodate, local players. So we had the National Youth Movement. And then we also had the National Council of Nigeria and Cameroon in 1944, still under the leadership of, Herbert Macaulay. And this was largely due to some kind of reorganization and restructuring within the political terrain. And then in 1948, we had the emergence of the Action Group, and which was, of course, based in the West and led by Obafemi Awolowo. And then we had the Northern People's Congress, which was established in 1951. These parties, largely constituted themselves as political expressions of regional associations. Of course, the Action Group was based in the West, and then we had the Northern Progressive Congress from the North. The Northern People's Congress, which of course evolved from the Northern Cultural Association known as the Jami'ar Mutanen Arewa, and the National Congress of Nigerian Citizens, which of course started as a national party, but later narrowed its social base to a cultural association, the Igbo State Union of the Southeast. And if you look through history, you will see that there's been quite a lot of restructuring, and certain factors favored the restructuring of these political parties. From being the National Council of Nigeria and Cameroon, we now had the National Congress for Nigerian Citizens. So there are factors that led to all of this reorganization. But basically, this is just to let us know that the history of political parties dates way, way, way back, okay? Dates way, way back. And it's important to note that these ethno-religional elite blocs struggle against each other in configuring the politics of the First Republic as a contest for hegemony by the elites of the major ethnic formations, e.g. what we call the Hausa Fulani, the Yorubas, the Igbos, and of course, because of these representation of dominant blocs, we had the marginalization of the minority. And of course, if you look within our political terrain, even today, we still have some level of marginalization, as some people will put it. Now, there's been a lot of power sharing as a result of the establishment of political parties. And it will be interesting to note that during the 1959 elections, no single party was able to win a majority, not a single party. And you could liken that to, what a lot of people consider may have happened as an aftermath of the February 2023 elections, so where you had the major political parties like the APC, the PDP, the Labour Party, contesting heatedly for, the presidency at the national level. And of course, although the APC, which of course is the ruling party, had the majority of states and of course the majority of seats in the National Assembly. However, not without some contestations for some of the claims and the declarations of the results that have been made. Now, the MPC then decided to combine with the NCNC to form a national government. And the reason for this is because there was no clear-cut majority that was won by either of the three major political parties. So some sort of, alliance were done sought. And this brought Abubakar Tafawa Balewa in as the prime minister, and then Nnamdi Azikiwe as the governor general on independence in 1960. Now, Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe later became the first president of Nigeria in 1963 after Nigeria became a republic, while Tafawa Balewa maintained his position as the prime minister. Now, in 1964, there was massive electoral fraud, which of course led to some kind of political crisis that led to the collapse of the First Republic. And the collapse is largely because of the dissatisfaction in the system, which led to the splitting of the NCNC and the MPC. Now, what then happened? there was some sort of realignment of this political party. And because of the disagreement that occasioned all of those events, NCNC joined with a faction of the action group led by Obafemi Awolowo to form the United Progressive Grand Alliance, while the MPC, on the other hand, joined with the remaining faction of action group led by Samuel Ladoke Akintola to form what became the Nigerian National Democratic Party, NNDP. And then, of course, we had the Civil War in 1960 that broke out, Civil War, and then which, of course, ushered in the military into Nigerian politics. And Nigerian's political space witnessed significant changes with respect to the evolution of political parties. And you will get to see how military intervention had shaped, the nature of political parties in Nigeria. So between 1967 to 70, of course, we had this civil war, and some political developments happened in the new republic, that is the Second Republic. So in the run-up to this Second Republic, there were about 150 parties that were announced, and 50 of them were fully constituted as parties. However, only 18 were able to feel that they had any chance of meeting the imposed conditions, submitted their applications accordingly. Now, the Nigerian state recognized just 5 of them in 1978. And the 5 political parties that were recognized by the Nigerian state include the National Party of Nigeria, the Unity Party of Nigeria, Nigerian People's Party, People's Redemption Party, and the Great Nigerian People's Party. These were the 5 political parties that were recognized by the Nigerian state. Now, there was, of course, the 1979 Constitution, which placed a ban on independent candidacy from contesting elections and outlawed regional, ethnic, religious, and extremist party. The idea was to have a national party and not just a regional party, given all that resulted in the political crisis of the First Republic. Now, within the Second Republic, one dominant party emerged from the transition process in 1978, and that is the National Party of Nigeria, with roots in the regional politics of the First Republic, of course. Now, the founding fathers of NPN, what they did was to systematically wax a coalition from the segmented and disparate fractions of various political parties, okay? And accordingly, this was basically to build a very strong party that will bear fruit. Whether that eventually happened, of course, we'll get to see as we progress. So the 1979 elections revealed that the political parties retained strong regional bases, okay, and ended up sharing the votes without any of them completely dominating the others. And of course, this is not completely surprising because before they were recognized by the Nigerian states as political parties, they all had their roots in the different regions, okay? So that expression and what happened during the 1979 elections was not surprising at all. Ideological politics was strong with the People's Redemption Party, which was an offshoot of Northern Element Progressive Union, NEPU, and the Unity Party of Nigeria, which was an offshoot of the Action Group. Now, both parties were said to be on the left, while the other 3 parties were on the right. Now, so we had a civilian administration that ran between 1979 following the elections and 1983. And we were just at the point of conducting or having a civilian to civilian transition when the military struck again. And this time around, we had a coup that was led by the former president, General Muhammadu Buhari. Now, Muhammadu Buhari's government lasted from 1983 to 1985. And then that government was toppled by the then Chief of Army Staff in the person of General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida. And General Babangida led Nigeria from 1985 up until 1993, when he stepped aside and pulled out of the military. And this was this was after the popular elections, the June 12 elections. Okay. Now, it's important to note that in the Third Republic, which of course witnessed quite a lot of activities, certain things were very, very prominent. We had what we call the Third Republican Constitution, which was drafted in 1989. We had the establishment of new political parties, which were later banned by Ibrahim Babangida's government. Now, his government then established only 2 political parties, and one of them is still in existence today, the Social Democratic Party, which was of course had a leftist orientation and ideology. And then we had the National Republican Convention. Now, when elections were held in 1993, Moshood Kashimawo Olawale Abiola, MKO Abiola as he was known, of the SDP, won that election. However, the election was annulled by Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, which of course precipitated the collapse of the Third Republic before it even took off. So these were some things that happened. And when that happened, IBB quickly started in what was called interim national government, which was, headed by an elder statesman, Chief Ernest Shenokon. And of course, as we all know, the Nigerian Constitution does not recognize interim national government. And we had some of our senior councils in the persons of Ganifami of blessed memory, who went to court to challenge why an interim national government should be in place. And so that government had quite a lot of issues. And what happened eventually was that the government was toppled by General Sani Abacha, who was the most senior military officer in that cabinet. So General Abacha ruled Nigeria from 1993 up till 1998, when he died. And when he died, we had General Abdulsalami Abubakar, who came in and ushered in a process for the enthronement of democracy in Nigeria. So he set up a transition committee, which led to the emergence of what we today call the Fourth Republic. And during that transition process, we had Chief Olusegun Obasanjo emerging as, the president of Nigeria. So, of course, the Fourth Republic was initiated through the 1999 Constitution, which of course had been amended. And for its first election, the Independent National Electoral Commission recognized only 3 political parties: the PDP, the All People's Party, APP, and the Action for Democracy, AD. Now, following a Supreme Court judgment on the case between Balarabe Musa and INEC, conditions for registration of political parties were, kind of liberalized to allow room for more political parties to operate within the Nigerian political space. Subsequently, Nigeria's political space, of course, witnessed an unprecedented opening with the emergence of 63 registered political parties in April 2011. Prominent among the new political parties are the Action Congress of Nigeria, the Congress for Political Change, CPC, and of course, the People's Progressive Alliance, PPA. And there are quite a lot more others that came on the scene. In addition, we had many small parties which took advantage of the liberalization of the political space to register parties that have proven to be, unviable, but meant to be vehicles through which INEC's funding support to parties could be, cornered. In fact, for those of you who were very much around at that time, you will agree with me that there was a time we had what we call briefcase political parties, and which were, of course, established solely for the purpose of assessing government funding that came through INEC, because at the time, INEC was funding, providing some kind of grant to, political parties. So a lot of political parties were just springing up here and there, and there was a need to, kind of regulate all of that. Now, in order to promote credible elections with the existence of strong political parties, Section 78(6) of the 2010 Electoral Act provided INEC with the power to deregister any political party that failed to win any executive and legislative seats in elections. And this is, largely to make sure that parties do not just spring up solely for purpose of, collecting funds from, INEC and then going to sleep, as was the case at the time. Now, on the 18th of August 2011, INEC deregistered 7 parties that did not contest for any elective office in the 2011 elections. And some of these parties are the Democratic Alternative, National Action Council, National Democratic Liberal Party, Marxist Movement of Nigeria, and Nigeria People's Congress, Nigeria Elements Progressive Party, and the National Unity Party. And this is, contained in Daily Trust newspaper of 19th August 2011, page 3. INEC also announced its intention to deregister more as soon as the numerous court cases by some of the political parties were determined, because these were parties that felt that they should be in existence, but then they weren't really participating in elections other than for the purpose of assessing the funds available at INEC. So they, as a result, they instituted quite a lot of litigations in court, challenging INEC and their powers to deregister political parties. Now, at the end of 2012, an additional 31 political parties were deregistered, leaving only 27 registered political parties, and a full list of course, of the registered political parties were published at the time. Now, having given this background about the formation and existence of political parties, I'd like to talk a bit about the Nigerian political landscape and the system. Now, within the Nigerian political landscape, there are several stakeholders, okay, and entities that are playing. And some of these are the politicians, the political parties. We also have political movements. These are just movements not yet registered as political parties. And then we have, of course, an electoral system that guides the conduct of elections in Nigeria. We have the electoral umpire, which is INEC at the national, and of course, we have the State Independent Electoral Commission across the 36 states. Then we have the electorates, the judiciary, legislature, executive. We have traditional institutions, pressure groups, civil society and situation rooms. And more recently, of course, we have those who call themselves technoticians. So all of these critical stakeholders play a significant role within the Nigerian political landscape. And I'm glad that everyone in this cohort is represented in these groups that have been listed here. So therefore, what then are political parties? Of course, a political party is an organized group of people with at least roughly similar political aims and opinions that seeks to influence public policy by getting its candidate elected to public office. This is basically what political parties are. And it's important to know that political parties are deeply and durably entrenched in, the substructure of our society. And this is largely for purposes of sustainability and for purpose of having a functional democracy. So that's why when you have political parties having its roots down at the community level, at the ward level, at the local government level, states, and at the regions. And it's also instructive to know that political parties link government institutions to elements of the civil society in a free and fair society. And they are also necessary for the functioning of any modern democratic political system. So this is how important political parties are. And that's why every political party tries to grow its membership base and creates opportunities for participation and inclusion at the community levels. So, of course, we've talked about what political parties are and how deeply entrenched political parties are within, of course, our systems. And I said this is basically to ensure that there is sustainability and that we have a functional democracy in place. But also, in addition, it is such that we have a functional democratic political system in Nigeria. Now, political parties do quite a lot of things. One of such is they solicit and articulate public policy priorities, civic needs, and problems. And of course, you will agree with me, when the candidates campaign for office, they campaign based on the manifesto of the party. The manifesto of the party articulates public policy priorities in different sectors of the economy, okay? And they prioritize that as what they are going to do should they have an opportunity to win elections. Now, political parties also socialize and educate voters and citizens in the functioning of the political and electoral system and the generation of general political values. Now, as important as this function is, I, for one, query how well political parties have fared in this wise. We've not really seen political parties go out there to provide the kind of socialization, the kind of, voter education that Nigerian citizens ought to have. We've not really seen that, happen. The only time you see political parties come out is during elections and basically to canvass for votes and market their manifesto. So I would really hope to see political parties take up these particular aspects of what they are supposed to be doing, even now and up to when we will have the next elections in 2027. They provide balance in opposing demands and converting them into general policy. So basically, political parties listen to what is going on in the society, look at the criticisms that people provide to policies of government, and frame them up in the form of policies so that the government of the day can actually implement those policies in order to meet the needs of the people. Political parties also activate and mobilize citizens to participate in political decisions and transform their opinions into viable policy options. Of course, if you have an agenda, if you have a policy initiative that you want to push forward, one of the ways you can do that is to sponsor a bill in the National Assembly through your representative. The other way that you can do that is to join a political party and push for that policy initiative to be adopted by the party. And if your party is the party in power, that political initiative then becomes adopted and becomes a policy focus of the government of the day. So that way you are able to then push such initiative for the benefit of the society. So that's what political parties actually do. They harvest such initiative, put them into a policy framework so that the government of the day can actually implement them. They channel public opinion from citizens to government and also recruit and train candidates for public office. And again, this is another very challenging responsibility I've not really seen political parties do, the aspect of recruiting and training candidates for public offices. And of course, you will agree with me, and I challenge all the political party representatives here, because it's a major, major, major challenge. Because by now, we should actually begin to know people who will be running office even in 2027, in the event if you have, political parties that are really doing what they are supposed to be doing. Not necessarily the party in power, but every political party should actually have a mechanism for identifying credible persons and preparing them for, future elections. For every political party, there are what we call operational imperatives. And to perform this task and function, political parties and citizens need some rights and obligations guaranteed or ruled by constitution or law. And some of these imperatives are that there is freedom of organization, so people are able to organize themselves. There is freedom to stand for elections. People are free to contest for, any political positions. There is, of course, freedom of speech and assembly. People must be able to gather and discuss about, governance and discuss about political issues in the country. And then there must also be provision of a fair and peaceful competition among political parties and candidates, and mechanisms to ensure, plurality, that is involvement and inclusion of everybody. And then there ought to be a level playing field and freedom from discrimination. People must never be discriminated against within the polity. And then media must also have access and give fair reporting of political activities. We must also have transparent and accountable political financing systems. So the Independent National Electoral Commission, of course, has powers to regulate party financing and demand accountability by the political parties. So all of these are mechanisms that have been provided under the laws of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. So, and all of these provide the operational imperatives of political parties. So for every political party, it must guarantee all of those, okay? Now, political parties, of course, are essential institutions of democracy. We've talked about that. And we have also indicated that political parties compete in elections, and we've seen, several of such. And of course, we have what we call the off-season elections, which are coming up later in the year, and we're going to have quite a lot of political parties participating in that electoral process. Now, in opposition, they can also hold government to account, and that's exactly why we have the opposition. So opposition is not just about attacking government, but is holding government to account for what they have promised they would do during the electioneering process. Beyond holding them to account, it's also providing alternatives in terms of policies, so that the government, because the whole idea is to ensure that people get what they call dividends of democracy. So the involvement of the opposition in government is also very important in terms of critiquing the actions of government. Now, participation of citizens in political parties offers unique benefits, which of course include influencing policy choices. I talked about that earlier. Choosing and engaging political leaders, and of course, running for office. So this is the reason why, as much as possible, we must necessarily participate in political activities by joining political parties. However, in some countries, political parties do not respect the rights of citizens to participate and are not accountable to voters. And of course, we cannot, we cannot say Nigeria is out of this. Nigeria is not exempted from, these political parties. And we all know, what political parties do. So we have instances where some people's rights are denied, and which is the reason why people challenge decision of political parties in court. And we have quite a lot of instances of such. I'm sure you remember the case of Yobe, where a candidate was contested for a senatorial position and won, but was later denied, and why was he denied? He was denied because the political party denied it. So these are some of the things we are talking about. So they are practical, and they happen within our context. Now, every political party have a system for party management, and political parties are guided in its structure and function by the following. One, they have party constitutions and manifestos. They have codes of conduct for members. There are conventions of the parties, especially for the older political parties. The conventions here include previous agreements, resolutions, regulations of the party standing rules, and extant, guidelines. All of these form what we call the conventions of the party. And then we have customs, of course, which include culture, procedures, practice, e.g. Consensus, which of course have been had previously. So if you, for instance, say you're going to have a mechanism for rotating power within the political party, it becomes part of, the party customs. And then we also have judicial pronouncements. Some judicial pronouncements have shaped the way political parties are managed. And of course, we have the electoral laws, which provides for how party leadership should emerge and how political parties should be managed. And in all of this, we have what we call the ground norm. That is the Constitution of Nigeria. That is the 1999 Constitution as amended. So all of these documents are critical to the management of political parties. And for those of you who are representative of political parties, I'm sure you will agree with me that you have all of these documents in place. You have the Nigerian Constitution, you have the electoral laws, you have even judicial pronouncements, you have conventions of the party, you have codes of conduct for members and even for the leadership of the party, and then of course, party constitution and manifesto. Now, having said this, we will now look at what you call the structures of a political party. For those of you who are members of political party, this is no longer new to you. And this would really be very beneficial to those who do not belong to any political party and who may be new to, something like this. There are critical structures of political parties for every political parties. And please note that what I'm presenting here may not be the same with what you have in the parties that are represented here, but it's just a way to let us know that these constitute basically what you call the structures of a political party. And these include the World Executive, the World Congress, Local Government Executive Committee, the Local Government Area Congress, Senatorial District Executive Committee, Senatorial Congress, State Working Committee, State Executive Committee, like that, down to the national, where you have the National Working Committee, the neck of the party, the BOT, the National Caucus, the National Convention. There may be National Elders Forum, like that and so on. So all of these are structures of the party, and each one of them have responsibilities or functions that are circumscribed in the constitution of that party. Now, what are some of the functions? And I know the Electoral College is going to provide you with some of these materials. So I'll just pick a few and just highlight their functions, and then we can have questions and provide some discussions. Now, the World Executive Committee has the following functions. Basically, the administration of the party at the world level. It has responsibility for raising funds for the party. It conducts membership drive for the party. It draws up political campaigns. and strategies. It mobilizes voters for the party. It implements the decision of the World Congress and other organs of the party. And then it receives the World Auditor report and also performs such other functions as may be in the interest of the party and as may from time to time be assigned to it by higher organs of the party. So these are the critical functions of the World Executive Committee. Now, we also have what you call the World Congress. And the World Congress has this composition. It consists of all elected political office holders, registered members of the party, and they meet once a year. Now, what is their function? Their function is to receive reports of the World Executive Committee, receive auditors' reports, approve the budget of the World, elect members of the World Executive Committee, elect World delegates to the State Party Congress, and please note that, conduct primaries for World elections, and carry out such other function as may be in the interest of the party. In other words, the Congress of a political party, whether at the world level, local government level, state level, is similar to the legislative function of a state house of assembly or that of the National Assembly. That's what the Congress does. And you can see from the functions that we have, we have circumscribed here, it's clearly functions that are similar to the House of Assembly of a state and the National Assembly at the national level. We also have the Local Government Executive Committee, and it has all of these functions to perform at the local government level, administering the party, raising funds, membership drive, drawing up strategies for political campaigns, mobilizing voters, implement decisions of the local government Congress, local government area Congress, and other organs of the party, identify and resolve political, social, and economic issues of concern to the local government area, receive and implement reports from the wards on membership, fundraising, strategies of political campaigns and elections, success, and mobilization of voters. It also provides strategies for effective communication between the ward and the local government area. It undertakes general administration of the party and the local government area. It implements the decision of the local government Congress and other higher organs of the party. And then it employs all secretarial staff for the local government branch of the party and perform such other functions as may be in the interest of the party. Now, these are the functions of the Local Government Executive Committee. Then you also have the composition of the Local Government Area Congress. Like I said, the Congress is like the legislative arm of a political party. Now, the composition for Local Government Area Congress is usually the local government party chairman and other members of the Local Government Area Executive Committee, all the national, zonal, and state executive committee members of the party from that local government. And then you also have the elected local government council chairman, the vice chairman, and councillors who are members of the party. And then we have all members of the National and State House of Assembly from the local government area who are members of the party, members of the Board of Trustees from the local government area, all chairmen and secretaries of the World Executive Committee from the local government area. And then we have 3 delegates from each of the ward of the local government area elected at the World Congress, at least one of whom shall be a woman. And this is basically to ensure or guarantee gender inclusion in political activities. So that's the composition of the Local Government Area Congress. And of course, the Congress at the local government area has its own function as well, which is to elect members of the Local Government Executive Committee of the party. The Local Government Council chairmanship candidate emerges from the Local Government Council Congress. And then it also elects the local government party delegates to the National Convention, So those delegates that go to the National Convention emerge from this platform. It approved the budget of the party at the local government level and received the local government auditor's report. So those are the functions of the local government area congress. Then we have other structures of the party. We have the state caucus, we have the state elders committee, we have the state executive committee, we have the state party congress, the state assembly congress, the House of Representative Congress, and then we also have senatorial district congress. I have put asterisks there just to indicate to us that for different political parties, you may not have it the way it is here, because those political parties may have defined differently how to elect members into the state house of, elect candidates for state house of assembly, and also how to elect candidates for both House of Rep and the Senate. So we have the State Party Congress, just like we have the Local Government Council Congress, as well as the World Congress. And they have their functions again. Now, we have what we call the National Working Committee of the party. Every party has a National Working Committee. And the National Working Committee is made up of the National Chair, the Deputy National Chairman of the party, and we also have National Vice Chairman for the different geopolitical zones of the country, the National Secretary, Treasurer, Financial Secretary. All of these positions exist, and they are usually an election at the National Convention of the party. It has its function as well. It is responsible for the day-to-day administration of the WC is responsible to the national. The NEC is a more superior the National Working Committee. It's the NWC acts on behalf of the National Executive Committee on a meeting of the NEC on a regular basis, but you can have the National Working Committee convene to discuss issues of the NEC. So it performs other functions as may be assigned to it by the NEC of the party and by the National Convention. Then we also have the National Caucus, and we have its composition. The National Caucus has the chairman of the Board of Trustees, who shall be the chairman. And again, this may not be the same for all the political parties represented here. So political parties may have their own structuring. And then we have the national chairman of the party, who is also a member, the president and vice president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, who are members of the party, are members of the National Caucus, and then the Senate president and deputy Senate president and the leader of the Senate. And then we have deputy leader, the chief whip, basically the leadership of the National Assembly, of the Senate. And then we have the speaker, deputy, the leader, deputy leader, chief whip, deputy chief whip of the party in the House of Representatives, who are members of the party, automatically become members of the National Caucus. And then we have 6 governors who are members of the party, nominated by the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, bearing in mind the need for spread. So they come together to form what we call the National Caucus of the party. And of course, For political parties that may not be in power, they have other mechanisms defined within the party constitution on how the national caucus may be constituted. And then you have the composition of the national caucus. You have the function, which is basically to harmonize the relationship between the executive and the legislative arms of government and coordinate the activities and those of the party. And then they consider, review, and advise on policies and programs of government. So that's what the National Caucus does. And then beyond the National Caucus, we have what we call the National Legislative Caucus. Now, the National Legislative Caucus they are based within the National Assembly. That's why they are the National Legislative Caucus. So for instance, PDP has a legislative caucus, which comprises of members of PDP in the Senate and House of Representatives. APC has legislative caucus, National Legislative Caucus, which of course is made up of members of the APC in the Senate and in the House of Representatives. Together they form what you call the Legislative Caucus of the party. SDP has same, NNDP has same, Labour Party has same, SDP has same. So all the parties that have representation in the National Assembly have their legislative caucuses. Now, for every political party, there is a NEC, which we talked about earlier, and the composition of the NEC is so wide, so you can see, all of those who make up the NEC of a political party. That is the reason why the NEC is a much bigger and more and has more authority over the National Working Committee. Again, please note that for different political parties, you may have different composition. And of course, the NEC have its function. It convenes the National Convention and appoints a convention organizing committee, which shall circulate convention information in advance and ensure that the concerns of members are reflected on the agenda, and then carries out the decisions and instructions of the National Convention, which is, the National Convention is the most supreme organ and structure of the party. And then it ensures that all the organs of the party actively, and it performs all of these other functions that are circumscribed here. Board of Trustees is another structure of the party, and basically consists of all past and serving presidents and vice presidents of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, who are members of the party, who held or hold the respective posts as members of the party. All past and national secretaries of the party are also members of the Board of Trustees. Then we have all past and serving presidents of senates and speakers of the House of Representatives. And then there is 10 founding members of the party. Now, again, like I said, for different parties, they may have their provisions. And then there are 2 women selected from each of the 6 geopolitical zones for purposes of gender inclusion in the activities of the party. Now, these are the functions of the Board of Trustees: ensure high standard of morality in all party activities, harmonize, coordinate, review, and advise on administration, program, policies, and activities of the party, coordinate sourcing for, party funds, vested with the assets of the party, and serve as its custodian, mediate in disputes, undertake all other functions and activities as may be referred to it. Now, the National Convention, of course, like I mentioned earlier, is the highest organ and structure of every political party, the highest. This is where the major decisions in a party are taken. And it has all of this composition: members of National Assembly, national chairman of the party, who shall be the chairman, the president and vice president, state governors and their deputies, members of State House of Assembly, who shall be automatic delegates to the convention, members of the board of trustees. So you have all of these officers of government who are members of the national convention of the political party. Again, please note that for different political parties, they may have their different composition for national convention. And the convention has its function. One of the major function of the national convention is the election of the presidential candidate of the party. Okay, that's one of the major functions. But there are other functions, very important, e.g., the election and removal of officers of the party can only take place at the national convention. What other important functions? Formulation of policies and programs for the party is a function of the national convention. And it's important and instructive to know that the national convention have supremacy in all matters that pertain to the party, and all officers and organs of the party shall be bound in the exercise of their functions by the decisions of the national convention. So that is how powerful the national convention of a party is. There are many, many, many functions of the national convention of a party. And these are some of, the functions. Exercise control, take disciplinary actions, determine the type and membership of standing committees to be set up by the National Executive Committee, review and amend the constitution of the party, delegates its powers either to the NEC or NWC, appoint external auditors, determine minimum rate of annual subscription to be paid by members, and the proportion of income from such subscription to be remitted to the National Secretariat of the party, and exercise such other powers and authority not inconsistent with the provision of the Constitution, and shall aid or facilitate the realization of the objectives of the party. So it's a very, very powerful structure and organ of the party. Now, so there are other structures, and I call them structures for very obvious reasons. We have partnerships that political parties enter into. We have mergers, we have coalitions, e.g. the coalition of political parties. Even the coalition of political parties also have, structures, other substructures, both at the state, local government, and so on. And of course, you can think about other structures that political parties could leverage on. So all of these structures we've talked about give political parties their ability to function effectively within the political space. And for those of you who are party officials, you will agree with me that your structures at different levels has helped to make your work a lot easier. So in terms of references, these are some of the materials I referenced in preparing this slide. So ladies and gentlemen, that's what constitutes the structures of a political party. And of course, we have also seen the evolution of political parties and some of the political parties that exist within the Nigerian political space. So thank you all for your attention. I'm available to take some questions from all of you. Over to you, Chalia.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir, for that insightful class. I believe we have questions because we had our assignments just of recent, and the submission was today. And I'm very sure we have questions in our mind. So I feel this is the best time you ask your questions, and our facilitator will be available to answer them. Okay, I think I saw one question on the chat box. He said, can you please explain the meaning of lefties and righties? He mentioned something about it a left party. So I don't know what he means by that.
Okay.
Okay, sir,
Yeah.
did you get that?
Yes, I did. I got
Okay.
that. Are there other questions? So that I'll just take them.
Okay, sir.
I'm noting them.
Okay. Akanbi, I've asked you to unmute and ask your question.
Yeah, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Yes, you can.
Can you hear me?
Yes, you can go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much. My question is talking about funding political parties. From the lecture, I understand that the board of trustees will take certain incentives that will go to the secretariat of the party. Now, talking about raising funds or party subscription fee and whatever, that I have not seen in any party. Is there a way a party member can make the party force members to pay their subscription, or are there penalties for non-payment of party subscription or things like that? Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, sir, we don't have any more questions for now. You can go ahead,
Okay.
sir.
All right, thank you.
Thank
So
you.
now the left-wing political ideology, which some left-wing political parties actually practice, basically looks at those range of ideologies that guarantee social equality, inclusion, egalitarianism. That is, so it looks basically at some of those ideal situations. That's what the leftist ideology basically focuses on, right? Now, you also have the right-wing ideologies, which basically advocates what we call some sort of, free enterprise. When you look at some of the capitalist position of some countries, it's basically a right-wing ideology as opposed to left-wing ideologies. If you listen to social crusaders, Martin Luther King, and some other advocates, human rights advocates, in fact, basically what human rights advocates do is to advocate for social equality. They advocate for egalitarianism. They advocate for some of those things we consider, ideal. If you recall when we talked about the social imperatives of every political party, and we said that those social imperatives include the guarantee for freedom of expression and all of that. The big question is, to what extent do citizens have the right to freedom of expression? You and I know that within the political space that we all operate, right, there is some sort of stifling of the freedom of expression of Nigerian citizens. There is some sort of stifling of the freedom of participation, freedom of movement. Citizens, in fact, in recent times, we've had a situation where citizens are hounded and arrested for trumped-up charges. So all of these limitations are basically what you find in a rightist, political ideology. The leftists advocate for, some for freedom, egalitarianism, social inclusion, the observance of the rule of law, stricto sensu. But you see, that's why I use the word idealistic, egalitarianism. We don't have all of those. We don't have all of those. So to some people, they'll tell you that is utopia. You can't attain it. But that is what movement and the leftist political party advocate for. If you look at political parties like Action Group, or Awolowo, you can call it a leftist political because it advocated strongly for free education, free access to education, free access to health. It believes that social services should be provided, free to citizens of the country. But of course, in a free enterprise society, that is not possible, because that's where you have, capitalism at play, where the political ideology is such that demands that people have to give. Those are the things that differentiate between the political parties. And I can assure you, if you'll be able to tell parties that have some sort of leftist ideology. So those are what the leftist movement, represent, as opposed to the rightist movement. I hope. The other question about party funding and whether there are consequences for not is subscription. Now, again, I don't know how many parties actually have, and will tell us more. Every political party ought to have some consequences, spelled or code of conduct of members, especially for those who do not pay their subscription. Now, one of the things that party uses to enforce those consequences is that if you do not pay your subscriptions, and a time comes when party need to field candidates, you may not be eligible to actually vie for any of those positions. And that's when you now see people now coughing out huge sums of money to pay backlog of subscriptions they ought to have paid before now. So those are, there are within the party some sort of consequences to people who do not pay their subscriptions when they are supposed to do that. But again, we see an observance in breach of those provisions of the Constitution that specify the need for people to pay subscriptions, so that the party will be able to have funding for, to run the party and also administer the party at different levels. So there are no clear-cut provisions, but every party defines how they intend to, raise funds from members and through other activities of the party, especially now that INEC doesn't give any subvention to any party anymore. I hope I've addressed your question.
Okay, his hands are not raised again, but I hope your question was addressed. Okay, so we still have more questions.
Okay.
I've asked you to unmute. Yes, you can go ahead.
All right. Good evening, everyone. Thank you to Mr. Livinus for the lecture. Okay, so my question is around, I had a question around funding, but I think you've addressed most of them, but it still really doesn't, because I know democracy is an expensive structure. So I think I just have the opinion that relying on the party's contributions alone, it's a tough one. But going straight to the next question I have, in terms of you mentioned the National Legislative Committee for a party, right? And from that explanation, I think it's not all parties that will have that committee, except they have a representation in National Assembly. So for the case of, let me use Labour Party, for example, during this last election, we had a lot of comments. I heard a lot of comments regarding that even if Labour Party won the presidential, that when they won't have support at the National Assembly, being that because they didn't have a lot of seats contested for or members. How does that really work? What's the correct answer to that? Yes, that's the question. Then the other one is about party ideology. I know while we were doing our assignment, we worked on the ideology. But during your lecture, you didn't really touch on ideologies, talk about the Constitution and other documents. Is it embedded in one of those documents you mentioned? That's my question. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay, so yeah, so the not all political parties having legislative council. Of course, that is true. And I did mention that political parties that have representation at the National Assembly or House of Assembly of a state. So political parties that do not have representation in the National Assembly cannot have a National Legislative Council. And that's why I brought out the majority parties. Now, whether the president or whether a president may have support of the National Assembly if the party does not have majority seats in the National Assembly. Of course, don't forget that the National Assembly, which is the legislature, the executive, the judiciary, function in a way as to deliver good governance to the people of Nigeria, irrespective of which party has majority of seats in the National Assembly. And you talked about Labour Party, so let me go with you on Labour Party just to clarify. The Labour Party presidential candidate is Mr. Peter Obi. Labour Party has about, I can't remember exactly the number of seats it has in the National Assembly. I think it's about 20 something or so. But if you go back in history to when Peter Obi was governor, he stood elections on the platform of All Progressive Grand Alliance. And the majority of members, in fact, in the State House of Assembly were PDP, so from the opposition. So, and of course, which of course led to the reason why he went to court to challenge the basis for his impeachment, and the court ruled in his. There was a harmonious working relationship between APGA and PDP, which had majority of seats in the State House of Assembly. Are different at the national level. So you're going to have representation from different political parties. Will be calling for effective presentation of bills, whether private member bills or bills initiated by the party, to get the country and the delivery of democracy dividend. This is what that is going to do. We've had instances of bipartisan of different political parties, okay, even though, but all working together to deliver bipartisan, provide dividends of democracy to the people. That's going to happen. Even though we've not had, we can only hope that where such becomes the case, we will see a situation where members of the National Assembly are working together. Look at it. We have the opposition within the National Assembly currently working together to support, the policies of the current government. Okay. It could also go against the policies of the current government. And if it does go against it, there is no how such policies will sail. Okay. So, but they're working together for one reason, for reasons that Nigerian people deserve to have the best. The Nigerian people deserve to have good governance. So I must say that it is a huge possibility to have a situation where both the opposition, which may have majority of seats in the House, okay, will work with the minority in the House, but which had which may have the president working together to deliver the democracy dividends to the people of Nigeria. And if that happens, of course, we will all be here to witness and see how things work out. But the most important thing is that the people of this country will demand for good governance and will demand for the delivery of democracy dividends in Nigeria.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. I believe your question was answered, Noni. Yes. So Shadrach, I've asked you to unmute and ask your question.
Hello, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Okay, thank you, sir, for the lecture. My question is on I want to know the position of the Constitution on public servants and the civil servants, both in the private sector and in the public sector, on joining political parties. That is, can a public servant who works for a federal government, state government, or local government, or who works in a private sector, do they have a space to join political parties, to play partisan politics without having consequences in their places of work? Thank you, sir.
So the civil service of the Federation is supposed to be a neutral. That is what is expected. However, public servants are expected by the Constitution to exercise their franchise. They are free to exercise their franchise, but belonging to, political is not guaranteed. And correct me if I'm wrong, I don't know within the Constitution where it says civil servants should join political parties, but civil servants can exercise their franchise. And please underline it, they can exercise their franchise, which means that public servants are expected to cast their vote for a candidate of their choice. That is guaranteed under the Constitution. So they can cast their vote, for a candidate of their choice. The only thing they are excluded partisan politics. That structure, that platform, the civil service is a. I hope I've addressed your concern. And service rules. Of course, the civil service rules actually even specify how civil servants ought to conduct themselves. Okay, and I see someone had written here, it is against the civil service rules. So civil servants are not expected to be involved in partisan politics. It's just as simple as that. But they can cast or exercise their right. Thank you, Anova.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Shadrach, I believe your question was answered. So ask your question.
Yeah, good evening. Thanks for the lecture. So my question is this way. I would like to come from the Electoral Act 2020 that specify or give some conditions on certain amounts in which officers running for offices, either House of Assembly, state or national songs, the calculated amount of money was allocated that they must not.
Can you be more audible, please? Sorry, we can barely hear you.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Can you hear me? Yeah,
Go ahead.
So the recent released Electoral Act that talk about the certain amounts in which a candidate of a political party can spend during elections. Now, looking at the 2023 elections, is there any law that can put that into order. Take for instance, it is expected that a presidency should not spend more than, I think, 10 billion of the thing. If we look at the way presidential candidates during the campaigns and all what they've exceeded this certain amount. How can this be brought to book? That as well. Two, talking about the registration of joining a political party, I would like to start from the case of Mr. Peter Obi. Formerly, during the PDP primaries, he was still a member. When it is 3 months to election, that's when he cross-ticket to Labour Party. And in the law of Labour Party, in our party system of the thing, it is stated that for him to be a member of another political party, he has to tender a resignation letter. That's first process. The second, it needs to take up to 60 days before he can be a member of another political party. My question is, does this law or does this rule stand in terms of the elections? Because if we are looking at the abracadabra of the 2023 elections, these are part of the questions that keeps coming from left, right, and center. That, okay, even if Mr. Peter Obi won the election, how about this factor that said that he must be a member of that political party 60 days before election? I think 60 days or 3 months or thereabout. There are some certain specifications in which, in his own case, it is not.
Okay.
He has not met up with that requirement.
Okay, so sorry, let me cut you. I think this question the candidates of any political party. That we will be going beyond what this to address. With respect to limits to party financing, INEC already has regulations within its guidelines that addresses issues of party financing, limits of party financing, and all of that. So whether that is being implemented is another matter entirely. We are not in a position to take any action on that. So want to address here. On P2B, again, like I said, I cannot discuss on P2B. That's left for the political the court and challenge that if they think that P2B did not meet that that criteria. So it's not, that's not what this session is meant to address. Our focus is on political party functions of political parties, the structures, and how all of these actually aid in, what this session is meant to address. Thank you. And Charlie, over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. We have some questions. Let me read them out. We have one from Olatunde. He said, president or vice president of a party, which is also an automatic member of board of trustees of his party when he decamped to an does he automatically become a member of the BOT of the new party he joined?
So that will be
all the questions. Okay.
Yeah, I'll just a short response of the new party in okay. Terms who should. That's strictly at the discretion of the new party.
Okay, so question was answered, Olatunde. So I have another question from Benjamin. He says, in the structure, compulsory to fill all its positions, especially in the ward level.
Sorry, I didn't get the question.
In the structuring of political parties, is it compulsory to fill all its positions?
Compulsory to do what?
To fill all its positions, especially
yes,
in the ward level.
Yeah, it is. It is. A party ought to fill all positions that are vacant. However, at least for those critical ones, instances of where some positions are not filled during. So the party at the world level could organize another date where such elections can be conducted.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. And from Molud, he says, how we consider the all political party policymakers for country. I don't know if that question is clear to you, sir.
No, I don't get that.
Okay, it's not also clear here. So I don't know if you can still ask your question again, Molud. Thank you.
So can we just take maybe one or two so that I can catch up with an event here before I leave?
Okay. Yeah. Okay, sir. I'll just pick one from here. It says, as someone who is just learning about polytracy and interested, can I just join any party I want?
Yeah, you can join any party of your choice. Any party of your choice.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, sir. I believe your questions were answered because that is all I can see from here. Thank you very much, sir, for that insightful class.
Thank you.
It was great having you here, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
And always a pleasure.
Yeah, same here.
Okay, thank you everyone for coming to class this evening. I believe our questions were answered, especially from the assignment that was just concluded. And then assignments will come in by tomorrow, so we can continue on the journey for this class. So thank you everyone for coming in to class today. I don't know, do you have anything to say?
Okay, thank you so much, sir, for the class. It's always a pleasure having you on behalf of the college. Thank you for always being with us and dispensing from your wealth of experience and knowledge. And thank you to all the students that joined. I believe you've seen your assignments and how they've been graded. So I think Mr. Livinus has even left the call. Okay, I wanted us to unmute and just tell him thank you, but I think he has left. All right, so that will be all for this weekend, and classes will resume next weekend. Thank you all, and have a blessed week ahead. Thank you, Chalia. Well done.